Hello and welcome to Meditated Art. I'm going to take you through the process of my painting and hope you enjoy. So first thing that I do is after I sketch out a quick drawing, I tape off the edges. This is purely preferential. I do it because it helps keep the pages stable and gives me a nice clean line. Then I decide on the colors. I'm going to start with the sky, and it's going to be a nice purpley pink, blue, yellow, orange of a sunrise. Now I'm using gouache paint here. This is a new brand that I am trying. It's definitely different than the first paints that I started using, so it's going to take me a little time to get used to it. And unpopular opinion, I am painting the entire double pages of my book. Now, this is something that I would not have done years ago, painting on both sides of the paper, let alone crossing over the binding. But I quite like it. It gives it a different appearance, and it's a little bit more fun. I will use a little bit of water to help move the paint along. Again, this is just learning a new type of gouache paint. It doesn't move like my other ones, but I like the colors. It's hard letting go, being a recovering perfectionist. My artwork was never good enough. I am completely self-taught because of a somewhat crappy art teacher 30 years ago or something like that. But I picked up gouache last year. In June, I was recovering from surgery and thought that it would be a good opportunity to try a new medium, and I absolutely love it. But it is hard letting go of trying to get the perfect coverage and the perfect no lines. There's definitely enjoyment in the chaos without the perfection of completely blended and perfect paint. I try to embrace that every time I paint. So now we're starting with the sunrise. Trying to get the colors just right. I think I went to go in and add a little bit of pink. Nope, white. And this is where the sky and the clouds come together. It's definitely about trusting the process. This must be where I'm adding the pink. Here we go. There's the pink. Just going to paint some happy little clouds, as Bob Ross would say. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start. So that's why I'm kind of bouncing around. Also checking with the reference photo and trying to figure out what colors are where in the sky and trying to work with those colors all at the same time. Kind of looks like a hot mess right now, but I promise it will turn out. The one thing that I like about the gouache paint is that you can almost treat it like acrylic or watercolor. Just depends on the amount of water that you use. I tend to add a little bit of water to it to make it spread easier and farther. Just adding a few more highlighted clouds. And we might finally be on to the midground. Maybe. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start painting the snowy foreground. This is pretty simple. Basically just some blue and white and just fill in the blanks. You worry about the little details after. Now, when you're painting shadows, I rarely use black. Shadows, especially outside in nature, will tend to be more blue. If I do use black, it's usually going to be for darkening a brown, which I'll use later, or greens. But I rarely use it for shadows themselves. And when you start paying attention in nature, it'll definitely help you out when you paint. Because it never occurred to me that shadows aren't black. And it's probably why I never liked painting landscapes in the past, because I just didn't understand. And you can definitely tell my very early landscape paintings by the amount of black that's used. And as you can see, using different shades of the blue or the white will make a huge difference in the look of your foreground of the snow. So now we're painting the stream. It's going to reflect the colors of the sunrise or sunset. I'm not sure. I'm just going to go in and add a little bit more color to match the sky a little bit better. A little bit of the pink. And a little bit of the orange. I must be mixing the background. Yeah. So I'm doing the background in a dark brown, mixed a bit of black with it to deepen it. And because there's trees on the hill, I am just flicking the brush upwards a little bit to give the appearance of a tree line. So this little corner that I'm working in now is going to be where the sun is peeking up, just over the ridge line. So I'm adding some orange to the brown. And that basically is like the sun shining and making some of the trees disappear in its light. And there's our little sun. There's also a little puddle. So just adding that in. And using the same brown as the background, I'm adding in some details into the foreground. So this is basically just the shore of the stream. A little bit of dirt showing. And again, trying not to worry about perfection. Because water doesn't run in perfect straight lines or perfect curves. The distance between the sides aren't even all the way along the water. So don't worry about what it looks like. It's not perfect. That's fine. It makes it more interesting. And also just remembering that one side of the stream is going to be more visible than the other. So you don't want them to be the same amount of brown on either side. And just adding a little bit of visual interest, and maybe the snow's a little bit thinner and you can see the dirt underneath. It's also hard to know when to stop playing. So just use your gut and just think of every painting that you create as a learning experience. So now we're going to work on the midground. And I had some technical issues here, so there are going to be some gaps in the painting. But there's a little bit more black in the paint, so you can see a bit of a difference between the background and the midground. So this is where I start painting trees. I'm just switching brushes to a finer tip brush. I think this is where it cuts out. But basically I'm using a paintbrush and paint to create the trunks of the trees and the major branches. But I have decided I really don't care for painting bare leaf-bearing trees. I find it very boring. So there we go. We skipped. So I do paint trees on a regular basis. So hopefully I'll be able to actually capture the process. But basically, I use the brush and paint to paint the trunk and major branches, and then I went in with a fine tip pen to create the finer details in the tree branches. So that is basically it. I'm now removing the tape, which is I usually do it partway through as I finish painting that edge, but I didn't do that this time. And this tape has a tendency of tearing the paper, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't happen all the time. I try and only really press down on the paint edge, not the whole thing. And you can see here, oh, yeah, that happens. But don't worry about it. And there we go. Thank you for watching.